The views expressed on the following broadcast do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Now here are your co-hosts, Marv R., Bruce H., and the Monty Man.
Yes, indeedy. Welcome aboard to the great reality here at Open Forum on Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. Bruce is here. Marv is here. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi. All right. So before we get into the topic today, which is part 2 of the 7 deadly sins, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. We did pride, greed, and lust last week, and we'll try to get through these. If Hollywood couldn't get any worse when it comes to promoting drunkenness and debauchery, the Sci-Fi Channel has now come up with a new game show called Geeks Who Drink.
Huh.
And it's kind of like playing beer pong, I guess. So the whole point of the show is that every time you get a question or whatever the challenge is on the game wrong, you have to take a drink. And these are celebrities who are considered geeks, kind of geeky celebrities. I can think of some geeky celebrities.
Excuse me, I got to have a drink.
You got to have a drink, and Mark's got to drink his coffee. Yeah, so let's promote the abuse of alcohol one more time.
We did that show 2 weeks ago.
What?
Promoting.
Oh, promoting, yeah.
Yeah,
I saw this
being a stumbling block.
being a stumbling block. Yeah, here we go again, and I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there watching TV, and here comes this commercial on the Sci-Fi Channel.
I think us alcoholics better get over it.
I guess. Well, it's just going to get worse.
It is.
So I what do? You just go, you scratch your head and you go, "Yep, that's the nature of the beast, I guess." It just makes it so much more clear how important it is we keep our side of the street clean, because the other side is getting pretty messy. Yeah, geeks who drink. You see Rick Moranis up there just.
Would I be
Dustin Hoffman.
Would I be considered a geek?
Would you consider a geek? You may be a 12-step geek, or big book geek. Geek was a derogatory term when I was in school. Now it's kind of it's not anymore.
That's why I'm
prestigious.
It's prestigious. Yeah. We had that one kid. We had that one kid in school, and I think every school had it, that had the pocket protector with all the pens in it, and he carried a briefcase, and he actually wore a tie sometimes to school. He was a skinny kid with these big black glasses, kind of like glasses I'm wearing.
And it was you, Monty.
It wasn't me.
Yes, it was.
It was not me.
It was.
But his parents would drop him off in a hearse.
It was your road dog.
My road dog. So his first year of high school, every morning, the black hearse would pull up and drop him off, and here he'd come out of his. And kids were just like, with their mouths dropped open, But everybody kind of loved the kid, He was everybody went to him when they wanted their homework done. I'll tell you that much. Didn't make fun of him then, did we? No. Yeah. My road dog.
I think they might have considered me a geek.
You think so? Mm-hmm. In school?
Yeah, because I was a sickly child,
Oh, okay.
Real thin.
Yeah.
And I was very sick, And then I grew up and
got sicker.
Took boxing 101.
Oh, did you really? How'd that work for you? What'd they consider you in school, Marv? Were you quiet, shy, reserved? Were you a geek? Were you a jock? What were you? He doesn't want to say.
I can't know.
He can't know. Well, I was kind of stuck in the middle in junior high. I was I didn't fit in with the hippies because the hippie movement was real strong. I didn't fit in with the hippies, and I didn't fit in with the jocks.
Oh, I was already in the penitentiary.
You were. Throwback Thursday. Oh, boy. But when I got into high school, because of our artistic ability, all my friends that hated my other friends, and they were all coming to me. I mean, everybody was coming to me for this and that and the other thing as far as artwork goes. The jocks were coming to me. The hippies were coming to me. The partiers were coming. I had buddies with everybody. And so I'd hear all the stories, did you know so-and-so did such and such? And I'd go, I'm just listening. And I'm thinking, man, all my friends hate each other, but they love me. Yeah. That's a good deal.
Yeah, that being able to draw.
Yeah.
That's quite an attraction. People will come
to
you, want to get this done, that done.
You bet.
Yeah, you'd have done real well in the pen.
I didn't feel like drawing in the pen.
Hey, listen, I'm just trying to promote.
I wasn't in the mood. A guy making bracelets out of cigarette cartons, and
I did good.
And other people drawing
jewelry boxes out of cigarette packs and frames and tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Just beautiful stuff.
So if you want to learn how to become a talented millionaire, go to prison for a couple of years. All right.
The best thing I ever made was I took a covered wagon and made it into a roadster.
You took a what?
A covered wagon.
A covered wagon?
Yeah, I took the parts to the covered wagon.
Was it a toy or something?
It was kind of one of them ones where you get it, you put it together, you flip the tongue down, it turns the light off and on. You've seen them.
What is he talking about?
And I made it into a roadster.
Oh, okay.
I had parts to several of them, and
This is in prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, made it into a roadster. Made my own Dago axle for it and everything, and put 2 sets of wheels on the back of it. Put them together and put rubber around them like wide slicks. Yeah, it was bad.
Oh, my word. So if you have your prison stories of creativity, send them to take12radio@comcast.net. And make sure you tune into the Sci-Fi channel beginning next week for Geeks Who Drink.
I could do that part, I'm telling you.
Yeah? Yeah, you probably could. Okay, so we're gonna listen to this promotion, and we're gonna come back. I think Cecil's back with us, so don't go away.
All right.
We'll be right back. Addiction is the #1 health crisis in our nation. The Recovery Northwest Project is a collective group of all types of entities in Washington and Oregon with a common goal of bringing recovery awareness to the local, regional, and national communities. On Saturday, September 5th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Clark Community College in Vancouver, Washington, the Recovery Northwest Project will hold its community awareness event to bring the solution that is recovery to the Pacific Northwest. For more information or to join the efforts of the project, visit recoverynw.org.
There I was in my business suit, all dressed up, just uptight as I could possibly be. And I don't remember much of what was said at that first AA meeting. It was more the feeling of the meeting itself.
That's what has kept me going. I know it works, and I see the people ahead of me with more sobriety. I see how happy they are, and I want that. I want that too.
And what I notice about AA is it sort of helps me to relax and learn to really be happy with my sobriety. It's a richer life to live.
That's exactly what Alcoholics Anonymous does. It teaches us how to live without drinking. It teaches us how to have fun and really enjoy life without drinking.
This program's given me the good life. The only good life I've ever known.
Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Well, Cecil's back with us, I believe. Cecil, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Monty Man, and it's so good to be back.
Well, why were you gone so long, Cecil?
Well, to be honest, I think I was suffering from one of those 7 deadly sins you guys are going to be talking about today.
Can you tell us which one was ailing you?
It's kind of personal, but I suppose so.
Well, which one was it?
Well, give me a second. This is very emotional.
Okay, you got a second.
Gluttony! Okay, it was gluttony. I ate myself silly at a friend's sobriety birthday party and made myself sick. Now, there, I said it.
Good.
Now leave me alone and let's do Take 12 Trivia.
All right, Cecil. Take 12 Trivia brought to you by Therapia.net in the beautiful Red Rock state of Utah, one of the gold standards in recovery treatment and co-occurring mental health challenges. Therapia. All right, here. I would have guessed it would have been gluttony for Cecil. All right, so here are your useless trivia questions for this week. Okay, there's 3 and a bonus. Number 1, if the 6 o'clock news is broadcast at 6 p.m. on the West Coast, what time is it broadcast on the East Coast?
9.
Marv? If it's broadcast at 6 p.m. on the West Coast, what time is it broadcast on the East Coast?
Okay, I'll say 9. I don't know.
Where's my 6 o'clock, you guys? It's the 6 o'clock news.
Aha.
It's broadcast at the same time on both coasts.
I knew it was a trick question.
All right, number 2.
That's not true, Monty.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
If the 6 o'clock news is broadcast on the West Coast at 6 o'clock, what time is the 6 o'clock news broadcast on the East Coast?
Well,
6
6
o'clock. I'm sorry. Okay, number 2. In Northern California.
That was a trick question.
Yes, it was. In Northern California, in the Mendocino
You
County.
tricked us.
I did. But I won't trick you anymore. Today. All right, here we go. In the Northern California, in the Mendocino County area, there is a language that people have been speaking there for years that is unique to the region, particularly the town of Boonville. It's called Bootlink. In Bootlink, what is the meaning of the phrase Horn of Z's? Think about it. Horn of Z's. And I'll give you the choices. Here, you ready? Does it mean broken radio? Does it mean plate of sausage? Or does it mean cup of coffee? Horn of Z's.
What good would it do to think about it?
This is a trick question, Bruce.
It is?
Yeah, he pulled one on us again.
In Bootlink, Horn of Z's means either broken radio, plate of sausage, or cup of coffee.
Cup of coffee.
Cup of coffee?
Broken radio.
Well, Bruce, you would be correct. It is cup of coffee, Horn of Z's. So horn would be something you would drink out of, like in the Viking days, and Z's would be sleeping. Horn of Z's is a cup of coffee, so you're right. So we'll, I don't want to give you a bell. I just want to give Marv another one of these. All right. Okay, number 3. In some southern regions of the United States, what does it mean if a man asks you for a secure palm? A secure palm. Here are your choices. Your daughter's hand in marriage, your checkbook, or a slap in the face.
And in marriage.
Yeah, I'll go.
Just say hand in marriage. You both would be correct. It is your daughter's hand in marriage. A secure palm. There you get a bell. All right, and number 4, your bonus. If you get this right, you get it right. All right, this is a true or false question.
Geek.
That's your word. True or false? Apple seeds are toxic. True or false? Apple seeds are toxic.
I'm going to say it's true just because I eat so many apple seeds.
Okay. I see, Marv.
And I'm,
Well,
I'm
that's
pretty
the
toxic.
that's-
And I'm pretty toxic.
That's the reason I say it's false, because I've eaten a lot of apple seeds.
Well, Bruce, you're correct. It is toxic. Fruits of the rose family, including cherries, apples, plums, almonds, peaches, apricots, and crab apples, contain in their seeds substances which, on an ingestion, release hydrogen cyanide gas. They can most certainly do you in large quantities. So they are. Do you eat the seeds, Marv?
Well, once in a while, I mean,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like asking a person, do you eat watermelon seeds? Once in a while.
Did your parents ever tell you you're going to grow a watermelon in your stomach?
I never had any parents.
And
Now,
So
and
it,
that's a quick a trick answer.
it should be apparent.
It should be. Oh my goodness! All right, that does it for Take 12 Trivia this week. Listen to this. We will be right back.
Origins Recovery Centers provides integrated inpatient treatment for substance abuse and co-occurring disorders. At Origins, clients receive expert medical, clinical, and spiritual care, individually designed for their needs. Our clients leave Origins with a foundation upon which they will build the rest of their lives. Call now to speak with an admissions specialist. Our toll-free number is 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
All right, the 7 deadly sins, part 2, anger. Starting out with anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. All right, let's do a little review here. The 7 deadly sins is first introduced to us in our recovery literature in the 12 and 12 Alcoholics Anonymous conference approved literature in the 4th step, where it talks about pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. And it's referring to our God-given instincts. When those instincts are out of whack, they seem to rule us. They were meant to guide us, and they ended up ruling us. And things get messed up. Well, in the good book, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, 16 through 19, among the verses traditionally associated with King Solomon, it states that the Lord specifically regards 6 things that the Lord hates, and the 7th is an abomination to him. And this is where we get the 7 deadly sins. Number 1, a proud look. Number 2, a lying tongue. 3, hands that shed innocent blood. 4, a heart that devises wicked plots. 5, feet that are swift to run into mischief. 6, a deceitful witness that uttereth lies. And 7, him that soweth discord amongst the brethren. And then in Galatians 5:19-21, in the New Testament, it says the acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity, debauchery, idolatry, and witchcraft. Hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, factions and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. And so then in the 12 and 12, it talks about the 7 deadly sins: pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, sloth. Last week we talked about pride, greed, and lust. This week, let's unpack a little bit about anger, gluttony, envy. Pride, greed, and lust. This week we'll do anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. So anger. I think that the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks about anger being maybe okay for some people, but not a good thing for the alcoholic. True?
it's the dubious luxury.
The dubious luxury. It's dubiously luxurious.
So, it's, in other words, it could be dubious even for others.
Even for others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anger is an energy. It must be released.
Well, what's the number one offender?
Resentment.
Yeah. And when you do your inventory, what do you list?
Your resentments. People that you're...
What you was angry.
Yeah. What made you angry?
What made you angry? Say that somebody did.
Yeah, Mr. Brown.
And it's just a feeling of I just word it like this. It's just a feeling of displeasure. That's when you do...
That's a gentle way of saying it.
Yeah, but you do this inventory, and we talk about a lot in the rooms about how we go from 8 to 80.
Mm-hmm.
That quick, with this anger of ours. But I think if you take a real good look at anger, it's tied in to the resentment, and then later on, it talks about where it even when it's not connected with it,
Right.
Fear, things like that.
Right. It is an energy, and if it builds up without being taken care of, it can get real ugly.
Quick.
Yeah. And so it's got to be released somehow. And that's the problem. Most people don't release anger well. They usually release it all over somebody else or something else. And many of us have done grave harm in being angry. I will tell you, I'll tell myself here, I know that I can do that. I can go from 8 to 80. I can be just as happy as a clam, and somebody say the wrong thing, at the wrong time, and boom, I got this thing in my chest, and I can feel the heat build up, and it's like 2 seconds ago I was singing Zippity Doo-Dah.
If I'm not doing that, I'm carrying around inside of me and burning myself up.
Yeah.
Because I'm mad and, cantankerous, and so, I start beating myself up, or even simple things like if I was in Marv's profession, I don't think I could work with horses.
Really?
I'd be angry. I'd be mad.
At the horses?
Yeah, because because it needs to be up inside. So what does Marv say? This is a good one. It's one of the things I learned from him. If you think you're running something, order your next door neighbor's dog around. If you think you're running something, Well, here's the point. Here's the point that I'm going to try to make.
Yeah.
I finally understood that I couldn't get rid of that.
The anger?
That and my reactions
Resentment,
to it. I couldn't train myself to be something I'm not.
You mean you just couldn't read enough self-help books to get rid of it?
No.
Yeah,
And when I
hear
seen that, and I seen that maybe that was being used to teach me my need for God, then it started to diminish.
See, he had to be the one that chipped away at that, right?
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very personal thing with me, and that's why I keep going back to this God thing all the time, because the 7 deadly sins, you even said it in the introduction, they were put there for another reason, not to control our lives,
right,
but to show us something.
Right. So Marv, you would be, if I were to speak to most people in the circles that some of us in this room associate with, and I were to say, Marv R, and people would say, yeah. I'd say, how would you describe his personality? This is what I would hear: calm, the calm in the storm, mature, slow to anger. He's going, really?
A lot of people think he's upset.
Really?
Yes.
They think you're upset because why? Because you don't have this huge grin on your face or something, or?
I've had more than one person let me know that I intimidate them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't it amazing people's perceptions?
No.
Because every time no.
I think that's right. I think he can be very intimidating.
Wow.
And they wonder if there's not something going on, that if he's not upset with them. It's hard to get to know Marv.
See, I've ever since I've met you, I've always had that, I want to be around this guy because he's calming to me.
He has that effect also.
Yeah. What do you think, Marv?
Well, you know what
what's really going on inside that head of yours?
What I tell people is, because I've had them ask me, are you mad at me or whatever? And I just tell them, I'm grinning on these lips, And believe me, without getting too maudlin here. Or,
Yeah.
I thought about it quite a bit. Because a lot of the time those kind of comments come to me off the wall, and there's no reason for them.
It's out of the blue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really think what it is, I'm kind of swallowing hard here.
Okay.
Where I come from. It's not easy for me to be a tiptoe through the tulips kind of guy.
No, he's just cheery and
because of my background, and I think it shows up on my face. And even though inside I may be perfectly content, it doesn't look that way.
Because life can do that to your facial features. It can stress you and strain you and kind of leap you. Because we know people that do look really angry, don't you? I do.
Yeah.
I mean, they really look angry. And when you talk to them, they're really not.
Well, I think that, too, is that it's more than just his face. It's his whole structure.
How you carry yourself?
I don't think he carries himself mean or walks or, like we're talking about like that. There's a kindness that it package that it's wrapped in, but it's very stern. You know what I mean? So I think that comes across, because he's learned to protect himself.
And that's part of what I was going to say about anger itself. Anger is a defense mechanism for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You bet it is.
Yeah. Yeah, if I get angry, then I don't have to deal with what you're talking about, and I can just blow you off and just yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, when I look at you, this is what when I look at Marv, I think of the word kind. When I look at Bruce, I think of the word controversy. Just a little humor there. All right, let's talk about gluttony. Let's talk about gluttony. Cecil suffered from some gluttony.
Yeah. Good to hear from him, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll give a little secret that happens to me that has a problem to do. Once I start eating in the day, whether it be at breakfast or whether it be at lunch or whether it be at dinner, then I want to continue to eat. And it becomes a thing. If I just do this, if I just eat this, I'll get some comfort from it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I have that problem. So I got to be real careful when I do eat that I don't continue to eat, because I don't seem to be satisfied. So I'm at a loss to why I'm eating it. Why am I eating it? Just to take away the hunger or to get satisfied? You see?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the latter is what's taking place with me. And it's a real dark area. I don't seem to have a lot of
a handle on it.
A handle on that, And I'll actually eat so much that sometimes it makes me sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I'm as heavy as I am.
I read a book years ago called Love Hunger, and it talked about how food many times will serve the same feeling of that need that our alcoholism did, or drug addiction did, or sexual addiction, or whatever. That a lot of the same stuff's going on. And
chocolate chip cookies.
Is that your weakness? Is that your weakness, Mark?
I'm the original Cookie Monster.
That's funny.
Well, isn't it interesting? Because the very things that we do, just talking nutrition-wise, the very things that are hurting us, we use to comfort us when it comes to food many times. I went off. I was doing the paleo thing for a while. Gosh, I was feeling so much better, and I got off of that. And it didn't take much. It was a special occasion thing or something, and I started eating something I shouldn't, and I was boom, just like just like the booze, right? Boom. I was in it, and I couldn't get out of it. And it was almost 2 weeks ago. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings, they call it. I'd never been to one of these places. I don't like wings because I don't like the bones and the fat and all that stuff. And then I discovered they have boneless ones. Oh, goody. And I ordered more than my eyes were bigger than my stomach, if you can imagine that. And I was so bloated. We were in Eugene, and coming home, I was so bloated and so sick. I made myself sick, Bruce, and so sick that it drove me to that point. I was kind of like hitting that kind of a food bottom, right? And I got right back on the paleo thing the next day. No grains, no dairy, nothing that turns to sugar, that kind of thing. And within 3 days, I felt better. And I'm starting to drop the weight again, and I'm starting to feel better again. But why is it that we put things in our body that's killing us, and that's the stuff we're using to comfort us?
I can do the same thing on grapes.
What, pig out on grapes?
Yeah. It's crazy.
If you eat too many, are you drinking wine?
I don't know. But I bought some cherries before they went off out of season.
Yeah.
And I bought 3 boxes, not boxes, but of those
little baskets.
Things?
Yeah.
And you buy 3, you get 1 free.
Right.
So I did that. So I actually got 4. And then I started eating them, and then I finished eating them. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is just absolutely insane.
I'm not trying to change back the subject.
No, that's right.
I think part of gluttony and anger has to do with the person being mad at themselves a lot of times.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. I can see that. I could definitely see that.
I'll have to think about that.
I know that.
I think it's true for me sometimes. I get mad at myself because I don't live up to a certain expectation that I have for myself, maybe.
Right.
And something might come up. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Something mechanical or house cleaning, and you're trying. Or one of my pet peeves is the way they package food nowadays. That is so aggravating to me. And I'll get mad at myself. You dumb sucker, you don't even know how to open up a plastic bag, or something like that. And I could go either way. I could get extremely angry about it, or I could dig into the cookie jar.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. Or what I would do is I would eat something I shouldn't, and then I'd be so mad at myself for doing it, I'd just eat more of it.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck?
See, I tell myself I can't eat a lot of these cookies and go get a bowl of grapes. It's the same thing.
Yeah, because it's fruit, and there's tons of sugar in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just tastes better.
Yeah.
To me, that's all.
That's why the Bible calls us sheep.
Yes, we're so
why we need a shepherd.
That's boy, I can connect those dots.
Well, we do, don't we?
Yeah.
Quick story, really quick. It's the funniest thing I ever seen in my life. Literally, the funniest thing I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of comedians. I've seen a lot of that, but this was the funniest. We're driving down the road over here on Red Rock Road or whatever it is over here, and there's this field full of sheep. And I have a PA system in my car at the time. And I knew this little trick that some of the farmers use when you yell bunch, bunch, bunch. They all run to the barn. And so you can yell anything. You can yell lunch, lunch, lunch. They won't run. You can yell anything. They won't run. But if you yell bunch, 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 they look at you and then they turn and run to the barn. So we're having fun with this. Right? And so I'm on the PA system. I pull and go, bunch, bunch, bunch. And they're running to the barn. And this one poor little sheep, he's looking at us while he's running. And he plows right backed into a tire of this huge tractor. Boom! He just hits that thing, gets up, shakes it off, and then runs to the barn. I never laughed so hard in my life. But people are sheep, you know, and I will answer that bunch call if my emotions dictate sometimes, and I will eat stuff that is going to hurt me.
But the thing I keep coming back to is, so we recognize these defects that are who we are. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I think that's the defects. I think that's what's below the surface.
That's the underlying stuff.
That's the underlying stuff. And what if we can't knock that off? Maybe we can train it a little, or we can push it over here a little, but we really just can't knock that stuff off. We
keep going back to it.
We keep going back to it in a different manner.
Yeah.
The cookies or the grapes or the pie. You see what I mean? It doesn't matter. We're just using different things. And what if we can't knock that off in and of ourselves?
Then we're in deep weeds. If that's true. Unless enter God.
I'm just asking the question.
I'm telling you, I'm in deep weeds. If I don't, because I do.
What if I knock it
try
off?
to do it on my own.
What if I knock it off, but I pick up another habit to replace it?
Yeah.
Well,
isn't that the
one of
nature
the other 7 deadly sins?
Isn't that the human nature to do? Left to our own devices, don't we replace one for the other?
Yeah. What if a sheep is a sheep?
What if the sheep is a sheep? Oh Lord!
What if we're who we are? What if we
are
just
who
because
we are?
of our nature?
Yeah.
Well,
we need a
the good
savior.
news for me is, at least this is what I kind of hang my hat on. Is it's not going to happen immediately. It's a process, and all I have to do is keep turning to Christ.
You mean the escape from this stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been my experience, and guess what? There's people who, by divine healing of some sort, can immediately, like, quit smoking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or even the drinker.
Right. There have been people that have been
all of a
totally...
sudden they don't drink anymore.
And that's it.
Yeah. But by and large, it's a process.
Yeah.
And we have to make a conscious effort to go to God with these things, to little by little, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly.
So that brings real meaning to the phrase "dying to myself daily." Why do I need to die to myself? Because myself isn't capable of accomplishing these milestones in victory. I can't do it.
Yeah,
and so I have to tell myself, you know what? You're dead, man.
Well, I think
so. I need something that gives life.
We play around in this 7 deadly sins thing, but we want to take a look at what's hanging out there on the limbs, the shortcomings. You see what I mean? And we want to think that's the problem, when the problem is down here, what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's like the person that says alcohol's the problem.
Yeah. So
or the food's the problem. That's not the problem.
I believe that we're honestly talking about the problem of mankind.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Envy. Covetousness.
Huge.
You know, that guy, and I suffer from this when it comes to monetary things. You know, I could live in a tent and be happy. I mean, if my back wasn't so messed up. But at the same time, and that's just me. If I was all by myself, you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty satisfied. If you just give me a trailer or something, you know. But I have this family and I have these children. And Colin is still a minor and he lives with us, and I watch as his girlfriend's parents have lots of money, and they have everything that they could ever want. Physically, you know, as far as stuff goes. And our house isn't very big, and their house is big. And so Colin wants to be over there more because it's bigger. And they got a playroom, they got a rumpus room, they got this, they got that. And it pisses me off. I'm envious of it because I want that for my son here. So my son and his girlfriend want to spend time here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it gets me, sometimes it will, some days or some weeks I'm fine with it. But if it gets thrown in my face, you know, and usually it's me throwing it in my own face, I get really envious. And I know, and it's no good for me. It stresses me out. It makes my gut churn. What about you guys? Ever find yourself envious of something or somebody or?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
it's not very pleasant.
If it's not one thing, it's another. And I think you can bring it right down to, I think that envy, this is where I can transfer things a lot. I'm envious, and then I think it has a lot to do with pride.
I think you're right, because guess what? I don't really think it's about, I mean, I hate to say this, but is it because I really want to serve Colin and have a bigger house, or is it because I don't like the way I feel because we don't have that? So I'm uncomfortable with the way I'm feeling about it. And so that comes back to pride, right?
Well, that and the idea that, you know, that you want to covet what somebody else has. You know, you think you deserve it. You know, that what is that but pride?
Yeah.
You know, and that's
Pride.
see, that's where a lot of people I think get confused about recovery programs, is they think it's that everything has to be wonderful and, oh, I got this, I got that, and they're really recovering. And sometimes recovery don't look like that.
Sometimes it's really messy.
Sometimes it's pretty messy. It's pretty hard. When we want to recognize who we are in and of ourselves and removed from our Creator. So I think these are just, if we could just change our perspective on these things and see them as opportunities to see God instead of being something against us or something that we want to relish in or you know, ourselves in.
What about opportunities to be mad at God?
Yeah, they come up, but I think that
I could find some of them.
I think because of these things we're talking about, it's fertile ground for the enemy to play. You see, and he only can come at us by our pride, the lust of the eyes, and the flesh.
Expound on what you're saying, Mark.
Okay, I will. I have not been very happy with my station in life as it's been. And I have these ideas of quote unquote supposedly doing these things for God, and meanwhile, for day after day, month after month, hour after hour, nothing happens. My place won't sell. I financially, I can't do much. You know, I mean, so what's happened is every single time I hear somebody, like a friend of mine's getting ready to go camping for 2 weeks, and I get mad, upset, because I can't go camping for 2 weeks.
I'm right there with you. Yeah.
So then another person tells me about how God's answered their prayers. Both in two situations, it was my kids. And one of the answers was instantaneous, and the other one took a little time, but it came about. And so I get mad. Why isn't God doing that for me? Why am I still sitting here like a bump on a log and can't seem to break through this bubble that's around me? So
your envy can turn back into anger towards God.
So I got mad.
Yeah.
Had coffee with a friend of mine, and I literally read him the riot act.
Ooh.
And this guy has been my friend for 40 years. And I get back home and I have time to think about it, and I realize how ridiculous I am. Just stupidity, envy,
Yeah.
anger at God.
Yeah.
I call him up and I said, "Hey, listen, I owe you an apology." In our whole time of having this meeting, I could not purchase a positive thought. So, anyway, I kind of got myself hanging out there now.
Yeah.
But it's a reality. It happens to everybody.
It does.
And
I know. I see people going on vacations on social media. People that I know, extravagant vacations, and they're not making the money. We don't make any money, but they're making less. I'm like, how do they do that? You know, and people getting stuff and these homes they live in and also and you know, we're supposed to be weeping with those who weep and rejoice with those who rejoice. I can weep with you when you're weeping, but sometimes it's harder for me to rejoice when you're rejoicing because I get envious. And I should be going, well, good for you. I'm glad you can take your kids to Disneyland. That's right on. At their age, they need to be able to do this. Go for it. And I'm like, you know, why can't we have these things? And I get into that same thing, Marv. I'm telling you.
Well, part of the solution.
It's a big problem for me.
Yeah. Part of the solution, which I had to come by because I had this propensity to ponder.
Pee-pee.
Sitting out underneath the sugar pine with my ice water, it occurred to me that part of my problem is I am not grateful for what I have.
There you go. Me too, brother. Me too.
And so I had to sit and think about, right down to the fact that my wash machine works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get in my truck and it starts. I mean, that's where I had to come to and just realize that I need to be grateful for what I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, to me, is one of the solutions.
Yeah.
Not easy to come to.
Yeah, we may do well to write on a 3x5 card some of the things we're most grateful for and carry it around with us. And pull that sucker out once in a while and go, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm I think that you guys have hit the hammer on the head of the nail here, and I think all of us have experienced that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, really experienced it. And I'd like to tell just a short story.
Yeah.
And it, see if you guys, it took me 45 years, and I bet you 35 of those years I prayed and asked God to help me, and nothing took place, and it was just horrible. And I'm in the penitentiary, out of the penitentiary, back into the penitentiary within 10 days, you know, and all these things. And I thought I was going to die a heroin addict.
Mm-hmm.
I really
accepted
did.
that as your lot in life.
I accepted that as my lot in life. Then at the end of this thing, something took place, and it transformed my life. Now, I wouldn't wish that 45 years on anybody, but it behooves me to say that if it wasn't for my addiction, I don't think I'd know the Lord in the way that I know him today. He's very, very precious to me. So all I'm saying is if we can look at our circumstances and understand their opportunities to draw, that doesn't mean we want to. That doesn't mean that we don't want that to change. It's like we bring all our prayers and supplements to God, but we're there for his will. You see? And that is super, 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 super hard because of what we're talking about here. It just really, really is. So the point is, again, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but if that's what it took to come to a saving knowledge of him,
sure,
then that's what it
then
took.
bring it on.
Yeah. And in the midst of it, you would not have heard this from me. Like Marv is talking
Right.
about. You would not have heard that from me. I mean, I'm going to fight you tooth and nail.
Yeah.
Okay.
You bet. You bet.
So that's what I believe. So I believe that shows the importance of looking at the spiritual aspect of life instead of, well, Marv said it. He said it wonderfully. You know, your car starts, and you should be grateful for those things. And you have a roof over your head, you should be grateful for those things. But you should get up and nourish your spiritual life, not that.
Yeah, because then when you do that, then you are more apt to be grateful for those things.
More grateful for those things,
yeah.
And even grateful without them.
Yeah, yeah.
You see what I mean? They don't have so much of a circumstance, and to do that though, that's what we keep battling at. You know what I mean?
We do.
And instead of resting in, I won't go any farther, but there's a part that I think goes along with it. But I think that's absolutely true. I think of all of us.
I think you're right. All right, the last one, sloth. I like that word. It just makes me comfortable. I'm just slothful today. Sloth. It just kind of rolls off your tongue. Sloth. It's a gentle, calming word.
Do you know what it means?
Well, I think it means being unmotivated, lazy, and unproductive.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, and I will tell you that
I think there's an animal called a sloth.
There is an animal called a sloth, and they move very. Have you ever seen one move? I mean, you would swear that thing is going to take a week just to get, to its food source. I mean, it moves like something that you see on TV put into slow motion. It barely moves, but here's something that's really interesting about a sloth. They're always moving. It's just that they move so slow. You know what I mean? They'd have to be always moving just to get anywhere, but they move so slow. I think what happens with us human beings is we stop moving. We don't move at all.
Yesterday I was very slothful.
Were you?
Yeah, I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to get up out of my chair. I didn't want to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
I was very...
And so you didn't?
I didn't. That's all I'll say about softball.
It's funny because if I let envy get the better of me, if I let anger get the better of me, even gluttony, pride, greed, lust, and any of that stuff, and I get so wrapped up in myself, I'll just give up sometimes, and then I'll become the epitome of slothfulness. I don't want to do anything. Heck with it. And before I know it, a whole day's gone by. I'm not happy with even sitting in my chair watching TV. I just want to be left alone, do nothing. I don't even want to watch television. I mean, that can happen to me. That hasn't happened in a while, but it can happen to me. And don't get me wrong, listeners, because there is a difference between being slothful, lazy, unmotivated, and somebody that is dealing and struggling with anxiety. My son did that, and we thought he was just being a lazy teenager. And we learned later on that he was living with anxiety disorder. He couldn't move, and he's overcome that. But so there's a difference. So we're not talking about that. What we are talking about is just this lazy, and don't we live in a culture today that kind of promotes that? Everything's done for you. I mean, look at the technological advances. We don't have to do anything. We just tell our TV what station to turn itself to. Channel 3.
If I'm going to drag Marv into this one and let him share, but if I was going through what Marv was going through with his property and everything else, and and things that's happening in his life, his personal life, that would, if it was me, if I could step into my, that would make me be slothful, like you were talking about.
Sorry, just
it would be very hard for me to motivate myself to do something, to drag myself, pick myself up, go out and do my chores and things like that. I almost couldn't get out the door, because I think you have so much on your plate going on, you know what I mean? And just life, you know, at this moment. And so that would just stagnate me. And I would become slothful, I believe.
Marvster?
I'm on Marv.
True story.
Yeah.
That's exactly. And when you brought up anxiety, that's the first thing I thought of. The other part about it is depression.
Yeah.
Causes that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where you're paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, some might wonder, what's Bruce talking about? And I am so puzzled by my own actions the last year and a half, 2 years. But, you know, the death of my wife.
Right.
The idea of wanting to go to Eastern Oregon and get in a ministry, and
right,
and that involves selling my property, which I cannot afford to keep, and then because of all the circumstances surrounding my family and my wife and all that, it brings all these doubts about my part in all of that, whatever that may have been, and just flat left me depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I have been slothful. No doubt in my mind. I do not have the energy or motivation like I did 3 years ago.
Right.
And so I end up sitting under the shade tree and just shaking my head. What in the world is going on?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love that.
What the things that I do get done, I'm forcing myself with every fiber I've got to do them. Left to my own devices, I just melt away under a shade tree somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not a pretty picture.
Right. I get it. It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough stuff.
Yeah. And you hear what he said, and he threw it in there, and I hope the listeners are left to himself, he would sit under a shade tree and just melt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything I've been able to achieve has been by the grace of God. There's no doubt in my mind.
There you go.
For sure.
See, and it amazes me what it takes to get through that. But we're talking about the 7 deadly sins of man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of us are exempt to that. Some might deal with it a little better, or learn to live with it, or learn to embrace it in a way that maybe we never have. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's there for man, and I think that what we have to do is review our thinking and our looking at that,
yeah.
You know, and recognize that maybe that was just like the law. It was put there to show us who we are, and that we might go to Him
and our need.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because sometimes I think it takes that to humble us, because of the pride issue.
Yeah.
And the
if we're willing to be humbled.
Yeah. I agree.
The other end of the spectrum is death.
Yeah, there's a whole nother topic right there.
But you know, I have these questions, and right now I can only think of the one, but multitude of questions. The other day, I was reading in Luke, and towards the end of Luke, where Christ is getting ready to ascend into heaven, and what he was doing, he was teaching the apostles. And there's a little sentence in there. It just jumped out and slapped me upside the head. It said, "And Jesus opened their minds." And I'm thinking about this. I thought, well, okay, that makes sense. He opens their minds because he's getting ready to leave, and he's teaching these people how to preach the gospel. And so they have to be educated.
Yeah.
And then the very next thing out of my little pea brain is, Jesus, why can't you open my mind? Why do I have to go through all this stuff? Or why can't you open my mind like you did those apostles?
What was your answer?
I haven't got it yet.
Because you said something about, but I have to be willing to be humbled.
Yes.
You think perhaps they were at a place where they were willing to be humbled?
I don't know if there was if something like that, or just a sense of urgency.
I think you're right. That sense of urgency
that needed to be accomplished before he left.
We've lost a sense of urgency in so many aspects of life today. It's just not there because we've gotten slothful for one reason.
Either that, or we can't talk with our mouth full.
I know. Gluttony.
Boy, you two guys were getting heavy.
Yeah, we are. And we're out of time, you guys, unfortunately. Listen, next week, I want to talk about the third step prayer. Now, we've done shows on prayers before, but I wanted to do that because there's a phrase in there that bothers me a little. Well, I don't say it bothers me. It confuses me a little bit. It's the statement, Lord, take away my difficulties. And then I'm not going to say any more about that. There's another piece at the end of that. But these 7 deadly sins are obviously, there's some difficulties that, come up around these. And the third step prayer, which comes before the fourth step, before this is even talked about, in it, there's a phrase that says, take away my difficulties, ... And I want to talk about that a little bit next week.
What about the ...
Yeah, we're going to talk about that next week. What the continuation of that sentence actually says. But I don't know if I agree with that prayer or not. I haven't figured it out yet.
Oh boy,
I
almost started the program.
Yeah, don't do it. So we're going to see. Listen, this Friday, Michelle C., she is the senior admin for some of the largest Facebook social recovery networking sites on the internet today. She is going to be my guest. She's going to be sharing her story of experience, strength, and hope, and a little bit about this whole social media thing when it comes to the recovery world. She's going to be with us. And don't forget the Sci-Fi Channel's Geeks Who Drink. Oh, please. All right. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Marv and Bruce, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.